What's up YouTube? Capital G here doing my ban list discussion slash thoughts slash prediction slash wish list, all that stuff wrapped into one video. I'm really going to try and shoot for 15 minutes. I just did this video. It was 20 minutes. So let's just cut all the BS and go straight into the cards. All right, first up for ban cards, I've got Monkey Board and Seraphonite. One of them I think is very likely. The other, in my opinion, is not very likely. Let's start with Monkey Board. Monkey Board is a one-card scale. I don't think it's comparable to Cleafort Scout, even though Cleafort Scout can activate multiple times and is a one-card scale. Cleafort have a lot of restrictions put on them as far as what they can pendulum summon and special summon, and Performer Pals don't, even though Performer Pals have all the power of a deck equivalent to Cleafort. So I look at this card, not only is it a one-card scale by being able to get, like Odd Eyes Unicorn or whatever, but then it gets you your Stratos, and I don't have a problem with Joker at all, because I think Joker without Monkey Board isn't super OP, but yeah, I don't think that this card, I think this card needs to probably just go, like in the OCG. Seraphonite and its ties to Brilliant Fusion. If you look at Konami's history, you look at a situation that's very similar to this. In Future Fusion and Five-Headed Dragon, a lot of people wanted Five-Headed Dragon banned. Then you wouldn't be able to run Future Fusion and Chaos Dragons back in the day during the Zill era. And what Konami did was they hit the card that was more powerful. So history would tell you that they would probably end up hitting Brilliant Fusion. But in other cases like Genlock, I think that Lavalval Chain being banned would have solved that probably for the most part, but they ended up just banning the Gen outright. So that was a card that really wasn't powerful at all. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, you really can see both sides where Konami could hit Brilliant Fusion or Seraphonite. I put this on here as a Gem Knight player. We don't use Seraphonite at all. I think I've got 3 different builds of Gem Knights. I think I've summoned this fucking thing 1 time, but we need Brilliant Fusion, and you need it at 3 in the deck. Like, if you open with Brilliant Fusion plus Gem Knight Fusion, it is an amazing hand. Without Brilliant Fusion, I wouldn't even play Gem Knights anymore, because the deck just won't have the power to keep up with anything. Not even on, like, maybe on a casual level, but you desperately still need that card, and we obviously see how powerful it is. The card gives you 2 summons, and Monarchs, that's ridiculous. Also in Monarchs, it gives you Edius straight from the deck, so you can just +1 off that. And then you can get, your Exceed plays with Prime, so that's also kind of like broken. All right, so my limited cards, let's start with the Pendulum ones. I've got Karen on here. You guys know my disgust for this card. I don't like the fact that not only can it not be targeted or destroyed, it's basically a monster in the hand because you can Pendulum summon it or Tribute summon it. It's a spell on the hand as well because you can play it in your Pendulum zone. And then on the field, it's a monster and it's also a trap. You know what I mean? Like, that's so much utility for a card that you never Tribute summon anyways. I'm sick of these decks like Metaphors and like Pendulum Magicians being able to essentially run no traps, but then they have Karen, which essentially is a trap on the field that also lets them use their cards over again. You know how many times I've used Joker? Like 3 times in a duel because of this card? Like, a lot. It happens a lot of times. Or Metaphors players will, you crack one of their scales and then they bounce like one of their 8s to their hand and then just play it as a scale. Like, it happens way too much, and I don't like the fact that these decks are just running this card. It has nothing to do with their archetype, but then it just gives them an infinite evac device. As long as they can just bounce things that aren't current, bounce, 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 bounce. You can't go into your extra deck. People say, oh, just bait it and attack it. You can't even really do that because they can just bounce it if they really feel that threatened. And you shouldn't have to play fucking Cosmos to out this card. The only deck that like shits on Karen is basically Cosmos because Dart Destroyer gives no fucks about this card. So, I even looked at Lithium and he's running this in Abyss Actors because, like, why not? If you can summon Karen in a Pendulum deck, why would you not run it? It's just that good. So I think Karen needs to go to 1. Next up, I have Card Demise, which is part of the Cosmos hits, but it's also part of like just a bigger issue with the meta. I've got Dart Destroyer and Cosmo Town. We'll start with the Cosmos. In my opinion, this card is just too powerful. Can't be targeted, blows a card up. Replaces itself upon destruction. Way too good. Dart Destroyer is good in your hand and good in the graveyard because when you summon it pretty much any type of way, it's blowing something up. It's going to pay for itself. This card, in my opinion, it went to the level where it needed to be restricted based really off the last line. If this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, you get to add a Cosmo card. I'm sorry, but no field spell should just instantly replace itself. I'm fine with a field spell protecting itself, like Waterfront or maybe like Rainbow Ruins. But how dumb would it be if like you blew up Pantheism and then it gave you a Monarch spell and trap? Like, wouldn't you want that card instantly banned? Like, why does Cosmo Town get to replace itself instantly? Like, that's so ridiculous. Like, that's instant go to 1 just because of that. Card Demise. I think it was supposed to be designed to help slower. Actually, I don't even think that. I don't know why they designed this card. People thought that it would help slower decks, and it did. I mean, you saw Alethio top UK Nationals with freaking counter fairies, and that's the good positive side of Card of Demise. The problem is the offensively challenged decks like Yosenju's and the decks that have to run a lot of back row like Gravekeepers, they're not the only ones that can incorporate this. We see this card being used in Cleafort and Cosmos, the decks that can OTK you easily. And the thing is, yes, they can't OTK you that turn, but what they do is they set up this impregnable defense with those 3 cards. You know, I'm going to set my Call of the Haunted, I'm going to set my Solemn Strike, I'm going to set my Cosmojo. You're not going to get through my defense, but then during my turn, I'm going to be able to OTK. I'm going to, you know, Call of the Haunted, Dart Destroyer, pop your monster, Cosmojo your other monster, get my farm girl, attack directly, OTK. You know what I mean? Like, these decks don't have offensive problems. Cleafort, I'm going to Pendulum Summon 5, or I'm going to Tribute Summon for this, OTK you right then and there. So I think for the good of the game, like, both sides just have, or like one side has to suffer for the other side. So I think either this card needs to go to 1 or we need to bring back Heavy Storm. The more practical thing is just to put this card at 1. For Burning Abyss, Seer and Dante at 1. In my opinion, Konami has been sending mixed signals about Burning Abyss. Like, you hit Seer to 2 and Graft to 1, implying that you want to essentially nerf the deck, but then you give them Beatrice, and it basically just buffs the deck infinitely. So it's like, I don't understand what you're doing. Are you hitting the deck, or are you trying to make the deck better, Konami? Because clearly, giving them Lady B was going to make the deck amazing. We already saw how powerful that Lady Beatrice was in the OCG, and it was actually more powerful than I believed, because just being able to Farfa during your opponent's turn, just stop their plays, being able to Alec and negate shit, like, Lady B is so good. So I think 2 years of tier 1 is more than enough. I was thinking Dante at 1 is enough, but no, this is the only time where I'm like, we need to go a little overkill, because Burning Abyss have had their fair like time to shine, you know what I mean? And also Dante at 1 makes it so other decks like PK Fire can't play like double Dante and stuff like that. My Monarch hits Pantheism and Stormforth to 1. Some people argue Stormforth is kind of an issue being able to tribute during their opponent's turn, obviously non-targeting as well. It's not technically just Aether, but some people do play Escalation. I do think that is kind of fucking annoying with Aether. Just you summon a monster and it instantly gets tributed, and your opponent gets 2 monsters on the field, gets their graveyard set up. So let's go ahead and hit that at 1. I don't have Domain on here because literally, if you look at Domain Monarchs, Monarchs were not designed to play an extra deck. So first off, get that out of your head. They were not designed to play Brilliant Fusion and all this other garbage that people are playing. That's not how Konami designed the deck to play. So if you look at Domain, it's literally the only way they have to defend themselves. Monarchs do not play defensive traps. Prime is kind of a defensive trap, but only from the graveyard. You know what I mean? So it's like, they need some ways of fucking defending themselves, and locking their opponent out of the extra deck is basically that only way. It's not like Monarchs, you know, have some ability to inherently like stun their opponent. You know what I mean? It's not like there's a Monarch Vanity's Fiend or a Monarch Majesty's Fiend or anything like that. Pantheism, in my opinion, is just a terribly designed card. I recognized this the second I started playing Monarchs. I was like, wait a minute. So I get Destiny Draw and I get to add a card for fucking free for no reason at all. Like, sign me up. This is the best card in the entire deck. It's even better than Domain. You know what I mean? This card is just absurd, and also it gives the deck too much speed. There'll be those turns where they open with like double Pantheism, they draw 4 cards, and then they get a free card with Pantheism, and then maybe they tribute summon for a Monarch with return. It's like, I'm just, at the end of the day, I end up going through a third of my deck turn 1, and I've amounted so much advantage, you're just not coming back at that point. Now for another card, this is the only, actually I have 2 unbanned cards, excuse me, about to lie there. I've got Substitoad and Construct. Let's talk about Construct. This is one where Konami, I hope, realizes the error of their ways. They essentially took a deck that had been power creeped and was working its way out of the meta anyways, you know, but they forcibly killed Duelist Alliance era with, you know, Construct being banned. This was just, this was insult to injury. This was unnecessary. This was like cruel and malicious punishment. Construct didn't deserve this. And I mean, just for the fucking continuity of the dual terminal storyline, let's just bring it back. Construct at 1 is not really that big of an issue. It's a damn shame that you really can't do anything with lights and shadows anymore because you don't fucking have a light fusion. If they would have given us a new light fusion, okay, that would have made sense, but where is it? You know what I mean? Where that though, Konami? So bring back Construct at 1. It's not really a problem. Like Shadow players, if there are any left, would probably have to start running things like maybe Call of the Haunted. Obviously, you can get it back with Falco, but it's really not so ridiculously powerful that we can't have one. I mean, half the time Construct doesn't even do battle damage because of its, catastrophe effect, which actually is a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing when you attack over, things like, let's say your opponent has a 4,000 attack Excalibur and you just run into it and it dies. But then sometimes you want to just be able to kill something and do some fucking battle damage and they don't take damage. So it's like, whatever. They need to bring back Construct. Substitoad might seem weird, but to be honest, if you know your Yu-Gi-Oh history, this only got banned because of Frog FTK. If Substitoad and Match Driver are both not at the playground at the same time, they're both perfectly fine. In my opinion, Substitoad makes way more sense to unban, not just because it's the only time that it should be unbanned. It makes a lot of sense now because you have an Invasion Vengeance, you've got Treat Toad, and there should be a lot more Fog players coming up. But Match Driver is a poorly designed card. It's basically the same concept as Dark Strike Fighter. If you guys ever played during the time like Synchro Cat when Dark Strike Fighter was legal, what people used to do was they would summon a bunch of monsters, they would do as much battle damage as they could, and then in main phase 2 they would tribute everything for game. Hypothetically, with a Pendulum deck, you could do the same thing with Match Driver. You could Pendulum, your 4 monsters, attack, and whatever damage you didn't kill them with, you could just tribute for game. So, in my opinion, Match Driver is a much healthier, Substitoad is a much healthier card. As long as it's, even with it at 3, yes, you'd be able to go through your deck, Substitoad, Swap Frog, but it's really, okay, so what? Like, that's not even that broken. Substitoad at 1 is perfectly fine. Next up, I think I've got, I've got like 5 cards at 2. I've got Mole, Morale Attack, Rescue Rabbit, Evac Device, Book of Moon. I think a couple of these are actually kind of likely, but I think some of them are unlikely. I think Mole has been forgotten about. It's not even good. It's who's going to play more than one Mole? I played one in Evil Swarm back when I used to battle against Shadows a lot. It's pretty good. Not getting, not being able to get rid of Falco or being able to get rid of any flip effect or Winda, Construct. It was really good. But I don't think anybody's ever going to run more than one. Morale Attack, in my opinion, is very similar to Construct. Konami should realize that this card being limited or being taken out essentially killed the entire archetype. It would be like, to be honest, this deck would be, or artifacts would be actually quite playable if they had a couple of morale attacks, if it was more consistent to be able to just summon these things, you know what I mean? Because if you draw one morale attack, it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? It's so bad. Now I have to rely on Begal Attack to get this thing live, or I have to rely on some other gimmick. I think artifacts could have some impact on the meta if they were allowed to just have, 2 copies of morale attack. I think that Rescue Rabbit and Book of Moon are unlikely. In my opinion, I think Konami still thinks Book of Moon is broken, although obviously I disagree. Rescue Rabbit is, in my opinion, is not nearly as powerful as it was during the Dino Rabbit days, but I still think it's kind of a long shot. It's at 3 in the OCG, so maybe they'll look at that and see, you know what I mean? The card's not doing anything. Evac, in my opinion, along with Book of Moon, has been largely killed off by the fact that Konami has been taking targeting, or at least the effectiveness, out of the game because of this and cards like them. Evac Device has been power creeped by the Pendulum mechanic itself. During the days of the Xyz Summon and just like the Synchro Summon 5Ds and Zeal, it was really good because, oh, you summon Stardust, bounce, GG. Oh, you summon Giga X, bounce, GG. Like, it was really good at handling big monsters that came from the extra deck one at a time, but not if your opponent is summoning 5 monsters from their hand. You can only evac one of them, and then you die to the other 4 monsters. So evac device has been completely power crept. It can go to 50 for all I care. And then the last cards I've got are the Unlimits, and to credit Konami, they have actually done a really good job with the semi-limited list as far as taking those cards and putting them to 3 relatively fast. Like, there are some cards like Dragoons that I do think at 3 would be kind of nuts, and I don't think should go to 3. But there's a lot of cards like I look at these 2 in particular, Dragon's Ravine and Honest. This is tied directly to an archetype. I don't really know how many people are running this outside of Dragoonity. Honest really hasn't done anything ever since I went to 2. And, there aren't that many decks that, I can't think of any deck that would like really run 3. There's only one I could think of, and that would be Cyber Angels, and Konami could definitely push this for Cyber Angels because Cyber Angels can search just straight from the deck, and since they're a ritual deck and they don't really run traps, it inherently would make sense to want to run some ways, much like Monarchs, of defending yourself if you can't run traps. And Christia is a way of locking your opponent out, but having potential battle protection for all your Cyber Angels is another way. So like Cyber Angels is literally the only deck I could see running 3 of these. Even when people were running this in ABCs, like even if Honest was at 3, I can't see ABCs running 3 of this unless you got like Soul Charge and you're gonna bounce them all back to your hand or something like that. Maybe Teller Knights, because they can call the Haunted it and they can bounce it to their hand, and then they can bounce the call the Haunted with Trevor. But that's a lot. Like, it's been a while since Teller Knights used Honest, so like it might be a little cluttery. And honestly, if you were going to run Honest and Teller Knights, would you even run 3 of them? Like 2 would be perfectly fine. Debris Dragon I think is a long shot, because I think Konami still believes that we're in the days of 5Ds where people used to Black Rose the field every turn, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, they've released a couple of good level 7s in the last years, things like Clearwing Synchro Dragon, but the card's really just not that good anymore. So essentially, these are my thoughts and my wish list and my predictions for the ban list, guys. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. The only other deck that I don't think is going to get much of their support back, or maybe they get like Brioed at 2, is Necroz. I think Konami still fears Necroz. I think they have a healthy fear of the deck. I think they know if they put everything at 3, it'd be the best deck in the game or very close to it. So I think Konami still has a very healthy fear of Necroz, which is why I don't think any of their cards are going to come back. So let me know what you guys think. What cards do you guys think or want to get hit? Wait, you guys think will get hit or want to get hit? Jeez, I can't even talk down. Thank you guys for watching as always.